Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Comprehensive Guide to Gilgamesh. Now, this is an interesting episode because the reason I originally was setting up for this recording was to talk about how to better defeat Gilgamesh. It's been a while for this episode very specifically, besides the personal stuff going on, simply because I wanted an episode that showcased good Gilgamesh gameplay, but also at least one really exemplary mistake as to how to counteract Gilgamesh. And this match happens to be perfect for that. You will see what I mean in the future. So in this particular episode, I will be talking about both playing as and playing against Gilgamesh in this particular instance. So as a solo lane Gilgamesh, the first thing I want to point out is, looking at this composition, they have two mages, which means very likely one of them is either the jungle or is the solo lane. Alright, now I say that because Bakasura actually makes for a pretty good solo laner as well. And Vulcan, in fact, does make for a good jungle, so it is possible it's still a mid-jungle Vulcan solo lane Bakasur, but nevertheless, that is primarily what I'm looking at here. So we fast forward here. That's fairly loud, so we're going to pop this audio down here. Zoinks. How's that? And that's still really loud, so we're going to go on ahead and pop this volume down to 20, right? That's more manageable. Alright, so we're going to go on ahead and fast forward over here.
Let's get it!
We're talking about the Hades support here. I'm not really bothered with it, but you'll notice that that I'm building a little bit of a different way. The meta has changed slightly with the most recent update in the solo lane, where it's not impossible for you to build, as I have here, a health chalice, multi-potions, and your starter item of choice. In this particular case, I'm using the bluestone. Now, I've mentioned earlier that Gilgamesh can pretty much use anything at all. Most items work really well on Gilgamesh. It's just a matter of making sure your items work well together. Now, one of the interesting things here is, because we have a jungle Ymir and an ADC Artemis, I am going to want to splash in Shogun's Kusari, so I already know that even though I'm building Bluestone here, that I am in fact going to be going into ability-based damage, but I didn't want to really focus too heavily on uh, auto attacks, because the enemy team comp, no matter how you look at it, is going to be more aggressive than usual. Their solo laner is not a warrior and is not a guardian, so they're going to probably be building a little bit more damage than you would normally expect. Okay, so I know I'm going to want to lean very heavily on defense in this particular match, and because of the enemy team composition being not really that auto attack focused, they have three ability users. It's easier to keep up with enemies with these kinds of things, especially since they all have decent escapes except for Ares and to some extent Vulcan. We'll talk about that in a bit. Trying to lock them down with Frostbound wasn't going to work. Ability based damage is my more likely successful strategy here. This is something I know simply by extensive amounts of time playing as Gilgamesh. Uh, when you play Gilgamesh, should you choose to do so, this is going to be something you're going to have to kind of figure out for yourself. For example, an equally viable strategy I could have gone for would be really heavy on the health and protections and go into an animosity auto attack build. I could have done that. However, I wasn't really sure that that would necessarily work out well for me, based on I didn't know who my solo laner was going to be. If it's Vulcan, the abilities would do a little bit better because I can very easily damage his turret with the abilities, because they tend to be able to hit multiple targets. Whereas if I was against Bakasur, I would very much want an auto attack build, and I could just still build the corrupted Bluestone and still have some auto attack build there anyways. So Bluestone is basically my safe choice here, because whether I'm against Vulcan or Bakasur, I can adjust my build accordingly to either abilities or auto attacks as I need. Okay, so that's my thought process here. Now, while we're going on ahead and waiting for the minions to spawn, I do want to talk about Gilgamesh facing against him and playing as him simultaneously. The interesting thing about Gilgamesh is, in order to maximize his damage output, you have to be very precise. And you're going to see examples of this throughout this match, where
Yes.
I am
Cancel that.
doing well and doing less than well based on how precise I am, and it's going to start here. You'll notice I miss the middle minion. Now, the middle minion actually does a bit more damage to the side minions. I don't know why I paused it here. Does a bit more damage to the side minions, so I actually mess that up a little bit. It takes me a little bit longer to deal with this camp than normally it would if I had hit the middle minion for that. So just keep that in mind, that one of the big things to talk about with Gilgamesh is precision. He has to be fairly precise to maximize his efficiency. Now that I know that I am against Vulcan, this is a really good talking point here. It's very risky for most melee solo laners to interact with Gilgamesh at the front lines, because Gilgamesh is going to be looking to do his kick, and if he hits the enemy god through the wave, that's going to do more damage than a regular minion is. That's better for him for two reasons. First off, it does a little bit more damage. Second off, it forces the enemy laner to now have to run all the way back to your wave, which takes a little bit of extra time. So you're basically forcing them to take more time to clear your wave, giving you a huge wave clear advantage. Ranged solo laners don't have this fear, so I already know right here that I'm not going to be kicking Vulcan through his wave unless he picked Backfire as his initial ability, in which case he might be running forward, but I'm doubting it. So this isn't likely to start off well. I kick. He actually does wind up using Backfire, so this is still sounding fairly loud to me. That's because my volume is insanely high. We're going to go on ahead and adjust this to 25, which is what it's normally at. There we go. I feel better about this. Anyways, I actually make a mistake here. I didn't think he had Backfire as his first ability. He winds up, yes, he did pick Backfire, so I could have pressured him a little bit here. Not a huge deal, but it is an interesting mistake that I make. So we go right on ahead and start fighting. I poke him for the minion aggro. That is purely the reason why I did that. A single hit just to pull that aggro. He backfires. I'm looking to stun him. I get the stun. Again, that is a moment of precision. I have just now delayed his wave clear. He would have been about the same as I was if I hadn't successfully hit that, but I did, so now I'm a little bit ahead of him. I'm going to be able to apply some early pressure to him very easily, except he actually wipes out the wave a little bit faster than I expect. But because I did stun him, he doesn't gain that minion advantage. So I actually made an incorrect assumption once again. I'm making all kinds of incorrect assumptions here. I missed one of those minions, but my Ymir blinks in. We attack the Vulcan. I get stuck on minions. It's fine. I win the wave clear. Right? It works out. Ymir goes for the totem. Great. I'm going to go help him, but he doesn't need it, so I'm going to go and do the Scorpion with him, split that, and we get a little bit of golden experience from that together, which is great. Right? Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to look to clear another wave. The Vulcan has some good poke damage on him. I jump in. I get to do some damage to him. Now that was a mistake on my part. Mentally, I couldn't decide if I wanted to hit the back minion on the left there or hit Vulcan, so my brain kind of froze up and I wound up kicking the minion right between. It was a brain freeze moment. So, you know, we're back to clearing the wave. I'm trying to outclear him. I'm pulling that minion aggro once again, just that way I can kind of keep that ahead. I back up because he's got his turret down, dodge his abilities. Now I'm just looking to clear that last minion. This is really the problem with Gilgamesh. This is really the problem with Gilgamesh in the solo lane. His wave clear is good, but it requires really primarily abilities. Now this is the problem with Vulcan as a solo laner versus Gilgamesh. I just damaged his turret, and now I'm behind his turret. I have no fear of poke from the turret. I also poked out his... I didn't poke out. I poked his wave, so it's going to equalize things between his turret and my wave. Kick him away, get rid of the turret, because obviously bluestone damage. And now I get to work on his wave relatively quietly because I stunned him, I got rid of his turret. And I'm going to be doing the same thing here again because I already have minion advantage. I'm using potions to go back up. I'm dealing with minions. I missed the kick stun on him, which is fine. Just at that particular point, it was under tower anyways. Go ahead and clear the totem really quick. Again, I'm doing this really quick because I know that the mini wave is coming in. You can see it coming in. I'm going to take out that turret a little bit there. And now at this particular point, I am looking to kill him because he's abnormally low on health. And I successfully kill him. Again, he doesn't really have a great escape, so there's not a whole lot he can do. The backfire, as you'll see in the future, will be used to get out of my ult, which surprises no one. But beyond that, there's really nothing Vulcan can do to effectively get away from Gilgamesh. I check his Scorpion. I'm surprised to find it gone. So I go for my blue buff instead, because obviously my wave is pushed up. Now, something I don't know yet, but I'm about to realize based on how long it takes him to get back, you've probably already noticed. By the time I finish this, actually it's about when I'm done finishing this blue buff that I realize he must not have teleport because he still hasn't returned yet. Because I'm watching my wave the whole time I'm waiting for him to come back. Right, I'll actually wind up checking this pretty soon, but at this particular point I am assuming he does not have teleport because he did not use it to return. Right, and there he is, he's cleared his blue buff, which is fine, but it still doesn't explain why it took him so long to get there. So at this particular point, his minions have obviously stacked up. I'm just trying to clear his minions here. Try not to take too much poke from his turret. I've got my Ymir there. Ymir is going to be looking probably for a gank. Maybe he isn't. I don't really know what he's up to. I go on ahead and clear the totem. Minions are fine. He uses his ult, I'm not sure why. That's the backfire getting out of my ult. He'll do this continuously. At this particular point, my ult is basically used just as a backfire absorb. So we kill him. Now, the Vulcan is fairly decently behind at this particular point in time. And there's one thing Vulcan can do in this match at this point still, to at least have a decent solo lane, because he's only a level down at this point, so he's not really, like, hugely far behind. I'm running to go pick up my free item, by the way, at this particular point. I wind up clearing this just while I'm here, but my main goal there was the item. Anyways, back to the point, the Vulcan can very easily disrupt my precision, right? Because Gilgamesh, as I said before, requires a lot of precision to really maximize his efficiency here. It's very important for Gilgamesh to be very precise, and just with a single meatball throwing me off kilter, it would be very easy for Vulcan, who would maybe be standing off to one side here of the minion wave, could very easily pull minion aggro and throw me off, and thereby, by pulling my minions to him, his minions would follow, and it would no longer be the straight line I would need. But he keeps throwing his meatball at the wave, not me, so he never actually really accomplishes this. There are a couple times where you can see he throws a meatball at me, but at that particular point, pardon me, at that particular point, minions are all gone by those points, so he really wastes a lot of potential. But if you can disrupt the Gilgamesh in some way, either pull minion aggro absurdly early, clear the wave absurdly quickly. For example, if you're Anubis or Ra, who has an ability that can hit the whole wave, Vulcan can actually do this as well. It's just riskier for him. But Ra and Anubis, at very little risk, can clear the whole wave from a fairly safe distance. And that gives them a huge advantage. Neith can also do this with similar risk to Vulcan. So what the Vulcan really should be doing, basically speaking, is using the backfire, as risky as it is, to clear the whole wave, or most of the wave, and using his meatball to bop me away from his wave and pull me in aggro intentionally. Now this is just a matter of poking for me. I wind up actually almost killing him here, but I was really just looking for poke there. He hits me with the ult. I'm going to be leaving at this point because I don't want him to get a kill on me. I'm ahead. I want to maintain that lead, so dying to him is a really bad idea. Right? He actually tends to meatball me. I go on ahead and go in on this. This is very risky for me, but it winds up working out because he in fact used his backfire way too early. He really should be saving his backfire. If he's not clearing a wave with that, he should be saving it to escape me whenever I try to slow him with my Sunforged Scimitar. Now, the Bakasur ganks me because I don't have wards. He does kill me. It's really fine, actually. This obviously is a mild setback for me, but I'm 2 levels ahead at this point. Bakasur is the one who killed me. I'm pretty sure that Vulcan didn't get an assist here. I'm trying to decide if I want to continue leveling up my item there, but I decide probably not. I'm going to be going for the cloak there. I sell the dagger for more cloak. Now I'm getting the cloak because I do have the physical jungler in Bakasur, and he just ganked me, so I know I have his attention at the very least. That is why I'm now working on dual protections. Again, I'm looking to go Corrupted Bluestone, so I'm not really worried about my damage output at this particular point in time. This is fine, right? During the wave while he clears the totem. Again, totally great. I'm going to be going on ahead and poking a little bit here, take care of his turret. And now I'm going to go for my blue buff. I wind up almost forgetting to put down a ward, because again, Bakasur, I check his blue buff, it just comes up. So now at this point, I'm looking to either take that, or in this particular case, I'm hoping to intimidate him out, but he refuses to be intimidated, and I back off. Now you notice I backed off from that blue buff. All right, I attacked him. I did some poke. I almost committed. You can see me thinking about committing to him a little bit here, where I'm right at this point. Right, I'm checking the minimap for Bakasur because I don't know where Bakasur is. I don't see him, so I check. Here it is. Okay, great. So I check this, and I go on ahead and attack Vulcan because I don't know where Bakasur is. Now, I'm attacking Vulcan here for two reasons. First, I get the stuns, so I don't take any free damage from, say, getting attacked or whatever, right? I'm not going to be taking poke from Vulcan here. This also buys me time to see if I can figure out where very specifically Bakasur is, right? So I'm watching. Here he is right here. I leave, right? There he is. I'm out of here. Okay? But that's why I wasn't going for his blue buff, because I didn't know where Bakasur is. And I only use my ult here to try to defend myself against Chernobog. Again, I also know for a fact that Bakasur is nearby, so I wanted to use my ult to keep him away. You can actually see for a brief second there where Bakasur is about to come in. Let's actually go over here. So Chernobog ults, and then the black border occurs, so I know Chernobog is coming after me. And I am busting out my ults to deter exactly what was about to happen here. Bakasur was moving to gank me with the Chernobog, but because I threw down my ult, Bakasur decides against this move. But that is why he's over. I wasn't sure if he was coming in. The possibility did exist. If Bakasur did come into that fight, I was probably going to die. And at this particular point, I couldn't really afford that. Vulcan is starting to catch up to me. Me dying would be very bad. It would lose my lead at this particular point, so I used my ult. Okay? So I just grabbed my blue buff, barely steal it away from Bakasur, but I'm not too concerned because I can just jump over this. He just winds up leaving, so I'm just leaving as well. Like I said, I could have jumped over that wall, so I wasn't really worried about it, but I'm glad I was able to get my blue buff. And then, I don't know where... I'm assuming Vulcan went back at this particular point in time. Again, without his teleport, he probably saw this as a good opportunity. He probably saw Bakasur pressuring me in the jungle and decided that would be the opportunity to go back, which is wrong. That's actually pretty good awareness by the Vulcan. I grab that. I'm going to grab this for the experience and gold. Try to maintain a lead. At this particular point, I'm about a level and a half ahead of Vulcan, I'd have to say, and that's partially because he doesn't have teleport. Right? Now, he, again, does not meatball me. At this point, I don't have any minions, so it doesn't matter. But I'm just going to go ahead and poke him out here. Now, I can poke him out so aggressively because, first off, again, I can jump over his turret. He's using that too early. He should be saving the turret for after I jump. He finally meatballs me, but again, there's no minions present, so it doesn't matter.
Enemy missing middle.
Waste his backfire on me. Jump over the turret. Absolutely free real estate here. No issues. He does meatball me again. Now, that's the first time he uses the meatball correctly, right? But by that point, it's too late. I've already killed most of his waves, so it doesn't even matter, right? So that's really, you know, I'm just at this point trying to get him killed because I have nothing else to do. No one's in mid lane. Gonna do some damage here. I throw out my ults, hoping that he'd react strongly. He really didn't. He wasted his ult, so it was ult for an ult, so it's fine. But it didn't really cause him to panic the way I wanted him to. I was hoping he'd have some wild movement and give me an opportunity. At this point, once again, I'm just trying to get him killed. And I go on ahead and work on that, and I go ham on this, right? I do kill him, and then I die right afterwards. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, no, I thought I died after this. I'm thinking of a different match, never mind. Now, why was I willing to commit so hard to that, right? I'm ahead. Why would I commit so hard to that kill, right? Solo mains probably have already guessed that the reason why I went so hard on that is because I have teleport and it's off cooldown. He does not have teleport. So even if I died there, which I thought I did originally, and I was expecting to die there as well, but even if I had died there and he'd gotten the credit for that, yes, that would give him a little bit more benefit than I would get out of killing him, so that trade would be a little bit in his favor because he's behind, but because he doesn't have teleport, I would, in the long run, gain more, okay? That is very specifically why I was willing to commit so hard to that. So I'm just clearing the totem. I can see me are clearing my blue buff there. Go on ahead and clear this wave. clean. Now, the reason why I used abilities on that despite Vulcan not being there is because I want to go back, grab my blue buff, and then go back to Fountain so I can buy more items. Right, because this is a great opportunity for me to do so. I'm going to go up really quick, clear one more wave, because obviously they're about to meet, and Vulcan is obviously not back yet. So this is another opportunity to get a wave underneath his tower really quick. I go ahead and clear the archers, and then I'm looking to duck into the jungle to get out of there. Right? Let's see. I take his Scorpion because it was here. Literally. I am actually thinking about going back at this time. I'm like, oh, his Scorpion's up. Let me grab this real quick, right? I have plenty of mana, so if I need to jump away or ult, I can. And now I go back right afterwards, right? Lovely. So I don't really have a problem with him attacking the wave. I am specifically building the Mantle of Discord. I am specifically building that because they are abnormally aggressive. They have a high damage comp. And of course, Vulcan is very likely going to wind up building mostly, if not completely damage. Most Vulcan solos do. I'm at this point scaring him off the totem. I'm going to go take the totem. He tries to take it. He does. I'm a little surprised by this, actually. I didn't think he would have enough damage output at this point to take that like that, but here we are. Went ahead and slap his turret. Slap his wave. Puts a new turret down. That's fine. I retreat because I don't want to take the poke. He meatballs me again. But again, he's too far away to pull minion aggro. I go on ahead and commit to him. Because at this particular point, I just want to poke him out. Once again, I'm not really committing hard to this. I use my ult. Again, he doesn't panic. I really should have known better at that point than to throw my ult out there. That was a waste of an ult. He knew better at that point. I clearly did not. Right? He's using his ult here. He's using that to specifically clear the way from a safe distance to get back. I can see him backing here. It's fine. I'm going to go back and clear my Scorpion and blue buff at this particular point in time because he's just given me a huge window of opportunity to do whatever I want by backing literally right in front of me. This is generally, by the way, why you want to be backing either in the jungle or generally out of sight of the enemies, because you don't want them to know that you're backing, because then they won't know if they have the time to do something. Right? So that was actually a pretty big mistake on the Vulcan's part to back right there, literally in front of me. Okay? Huge problem. Now I'm just going to go clear the wave, and then I'm going to grab the totem. He's back a little bit faster than I expected, which is fine. And then at this particular point, I'm going to take the totem. Go ahead and force him off, right? Because obviously at this point he's proven that he has the capability of stealing it from me. Go back to the totem. He'll work on the wave. I'll work on the totem. And here is the totem. And then I go and clear the wave. Right before they reach the tower, which is really nice for me. Okay. I was going to global emote, and I, of course, was in combat too recently. He tries to poke me with a meatball. He misses. That's fine. Not a bad choice there. He should have waited until the minions were out, and he clearly has the cooldown, so he could do that multiple times. So he definitely has cooldowns at this point, which is fine. It's, again, pretty normal for solo lane Vulcans. And at this particular point, I'm hoping to poke him out, but I don't know where Bakasor is. I'm hoping to steal this jungle. He doesn't have any. Back I go. I'm wondering if Chernobog's going to gank me at this point. He doesn't. I can see Vulcan prepping for his Scorpion, but I decided to leave that and take his kick his wave. Now, at this point, I'm looking to poke him out. He just retreats. I go on ahead and take his wave. And I'm trying to just force minions under tower. Again, I am just poking him out here. Right? Off I go. I'm looking for the totem again. Alright, always be doing something as a solo laner if you can. I'm kind of eyeballing my blue buff. I'm going to be looking to take that after this next wave. He pokes me. Again, totally fine. I'm ahead of him enough where that doesn't really bother me too much. I don't know where Bakasor is, which is mildly concerning, but I have my ult up, so I'm not really that worried about it. I assume he's after his blue buff, so I quick clear the wave so I can go and take mine relatively unbothered without actually losing anything. Throw down my ward, of course. Go for the blue buff. Just take this. I'm eyeballing, trying to see what's happening on the left. I see Bakasor. Now, this is fairly interesting. I see Bakasor in the left, right? He's in left lane right at this moment, and Vulcan is half dead, so I'm going to be looking to attack Vulcan pretty seriously once I clear this wave. Right now, I believe he's backing here. And I do believe he did back at that particular point in time. So that plan is foiled. But that's what I was thinking of right at that moment. Is, hey, Bakasaur's in the left, this is free real estate. But no, it's not, he left. So I just take my Scorpion instead, and I'll be able to get back in time for the wave right afterwards, which is just a delightful time. Okay? So, here we go. Clear the wave. Now again, I miss that kick by a little bit. I don't do as much damage to the full wave, and I can lose a wave clear. Again, it's very important for Gilgamesh to be fairly accurate, fairly precise. I'm doubling up on my cloaks because, again, they are very aggressive, and that gives me extra damage on my Glad Shield. I go on ahead and grab the
Be right back. Cancel that.
horrific emblem. Actually, there's one thing I want to talk about that I didn't actually talk about yet, and that is me picking up Shogun's Kusari. You might be confused, but it still gives you 10% cooldowns and an attack speed boost, so even if you're going ability-based, it's still often really worthwhile to pick up Shogun's Kusari because it does give you that delightful 10% cooldowns, it does give you a lot of MP5, so it still is very helpful to ability-based builds, even if it increases attack speed. For some gods like Vermon or Gilgamesh, it's actually recommended to build this over, say, Genji's Guard. Now at this point, I'm looking to take out Bakasur. Vulcan is nowhere to be seen. Here's Hades, there's Vulcan. I switched specifically to the Pyromancer because right now we are very ahead and my ult was hitting it, so I was like, why not, right? I can tank this for a while, I've got potions. So I go on ahead and start on the Pyromancer. This is more of a moment of opportunity than anything else, right? So here comes Hades, here's Hades, slapping down the Pyromancer. Clear that, no problems. Clear the next wave, and then I go for my blue buff, right? That is my plan at this particular point in time. Here's Vulcan back, that's fine. Do some poke, miss my kick completely. Now, I should be leaving at this point. I've just used my whole kit, right? And so I do. Right, you don't really want to engage with the Vulcan underneath tower at this particular point in time.
Yes.
Now he clears the wave a little faster than I was expecting, so I have to go out, clear the wave really quick, and then go for my blue buff afterwards. And there we are.
Cancel that.
But once again, here comes another minion wave. It's got to be cleared, right? Clear the wave. Go for my blue buff. I wonder if I'm going to take the trophy. There's Bakasur right there, so now I know I'm in some trouble, right? Gotta get out of here. He's going to go for my blue buff, obviously. And because he just eats the minion, it's gone. Nothing I can do about that, but that's okay. Now, I'm going to back here, but then I realize my teleport isn't up, and I have enough mana to at least clear a couple more waves and stall out for 30 more seconds. It's not the biggest deal, to be honest. Now, I get a stun on Vulcan, which is great. Gives me the opportunity to finish clearing the wave relatively cleanly. He pokes me. He throws his ult away on me. That's fine. I have my ult and minions. So at this point, I'm wondering, hey, let me go for this. Now, at this particular point, right, I'm relatively low on HP. And I also don't know where Bakasur is, right? I've whiffed my ult, and as you'll see, I also whiffed my kick. I am in huge trouble, and I die right afterwards. This is exactly what I mean by Gilgamesh needing precision. I whiffed my ult, I whiffed my kick, I died. Okay? As ahead as I was 2 levels ahead at that point. Or I was anywhere from 1.5 to 2 levels ahead. And I died because I missed too many abilities. And that is exactly the problem with Gilgamesh. That is his weakness, is, okay, if he misses, basically, his kick is his really big one because that's his stun, okay? That's the really big ability. His ult, most gods can get out of that fairly easily. There are a couple of exceptions, like Anubis or Ra, but you can, for Anubis at least, you can easily outlast that. Most gods have a response to that. Hell, Ra can put down his heal, and basically have a pretty good time surviving Gilgamesh's ult. But that kick, if he misses the kick, he is yours. basically, right? Unless he's so far ahead and he's building auto attacks that his Sunforged Scimitar is going to hit you really hard. But I'm clearly going ability based, so Sunforged Scimitar, after the initial Fire Blast, isn't really going to do that much more damage. So Vulcan was able to kill me. But that's how you beat Gilgamesh. You gotta throw him off with some kind of movement ability when the waves meet, ideally, so he can't get a clean kick on the minion wave. And then when he's boxing you, as long as you don't get hit with a kick, you're home free, right? Again, this is slightly dependent on whether or not he's building towards Sunforged Scimitar. If he is, then maybe you're still in some trouble there, but the kick is a really big deal for Gilgamesh. And it's really important if you're playing against him to kind of keep that in mind. As long as, again, you can avoid the kick, you're in a really good position. Because that's his only serious form of crowd control. Again, he's got a slow attached to his Sunforged Scimitar, but most likely you have some form of crowd control or high damage or something that you can use to kind of stop him after the fact. Now, I do a lot of damage to Vulcan here, and he makes a huge mistake with that backfire, and then I get ganked. Now, what surprises me here, I'm not surprised I'm ganked. If you actually pay attention to the minimap, which I was too busy going after Vulcan to do so, right? I'm, doing this. I see Ymir getting slapped here. I have 2 allies dead. Ymir's about to die, and all of the enemies are right here in the jungle. I don't notice this because I'm too busy trying to kill Vulcan. Alright? I have committed to this fight, and all my attention is on this fight, and then I get slapped. Right? Boom. Now, normally, they would, at least some of them would go for the Pyromancer, but the Pyromancer is down, so they have nothing better to do than kill me. So they absolutely do. Right? I'm just trying to survive at this point, and then it's the ult from Bakasur that really finishes me off, but that's basically what happens there. I was not paying enough attention to the minimap. Huge mistake on my part. I really should have, once allies started dying, I really should have been checking my minimap and been going like, oh, yeah, they're in the right jungle and the Pyro isn't up. And they clearly don't have the strength to go after the Fire Giant, so they're going to come after me. I should have made all of those connections. But because I wasn't paying attention to the minimap, I didn't. Now, is this a huge problem for me? No. You can see I'm still ahead, and of course, Vulcan still doesn't have teleport. So, it's not, like, a huge deal. It's not the absolute end at all. But it is a setback, and it is a setback I could very easily have avoided by just paying attention to my minimap and leaving, basically, right? And that's why it's so important to pay attention to the minimap. But at this point, I also realize, hey, we're now grouping up. We're now looking for team fights. I need my persistent teleport so I can teleport to various places and etc. Right? Shorter cooldown, teleport to wards. I'm going to need all that. Now, at this particular point, I am looking to, at least I'm considering pushing up my right lane. I'm moving in that direction now. But my allies are fighting in mid lane, so I'm kind of watching that to see what happens. Now Artemis kills Chernobog and Ares, and I know, alright, I can commit to right lane because now Vulcan's the only one left alive, so as long as I can keep an eye on Vulcan, I'm good. Artemis calls Fire Giant, I'm like, alright. I'm gonna go for the Pyromancer because I don't know if that's what she's talking about. Most people do. She's, in fact... Now, see, I go for the Pyromancer because when people say attack Fire Giant, they actually usually mean the Pyromancer. She pings the Fire Giant to let me know, hey, that's not what I was talking about, and I'm like, alright. Now, I used my jump in because this circle around here actually gives all allies a lifesteal bonus, including yourself, so this is going to help keep me alive while tanking the Fire Giant, because obviously I initiated a little bit before my team got there. But otherwise, you do generally want to be using that jump attack when you're taking jungle camps, because your allies are going to be able to get bonus lifesteal out of that, so that's really nice, right? And I do it again here for the same reason, and just go right on ahead and take the Pyromancer as well. And at this particular point in time, what I really should be doing is going back. I am not going back. I am pursuing right lane. Artemis is calling attack left lane for some reason. I think that was probably a misclick, since it's not likely she'd be able to take out Vulcan by herself. There's Bakasur, and he's going right on Artemis. Now, he goes for Artemis. There's a very specific reason he's going for Artemis. She kills him, obviously. But the specific reason he's going for Artemis here is because between Artemis and I, she's more likely to take the tower. So if we wind up winning this fight, as long as she's dead, I'm not going to be as capable of taking out the tower as she would be. So that's why Bakasor prioritized her. I'm doing everything in my power at this point to kind of get her out live, right? She gets hit by the Vulcan ult. I'm trying to retreat. She's theoretically fine. I'm going in just to make sure that Vulcan doesn't really commit too hard to her. I'm hoping to kill him. Scylla comes in from behind. I get killed. It's unfortunately a bust. But I was doing my level best. We really shouldn't have been there. I should have gone back right after finishing the Pyromancer, so should Artemis, because obviously we weren't at full health. We had the speed boost moving out of the fountain. We all should have just bailed right after that, and we didn't. That was a combined mistake by Artemis and I, not just being in right lane, but being in right lane right after finishing the Pyromancer, when it would have taken us a couple of extra seconds to back, buy new items, and then run right back up here, right? That would have taken not too long. So that's a mistake on our part. But our allies pick up what we left behind, so it works out. And, they're going to go on ahead and press on. Now, I built Soul Eater here because they are a very aggressive comp, and I'm realizing, due to the way the enemy team has been fighting, that they're fairly aggressive, and that I'm seeing a lot of action in my own lane, partially due to my own mistakes, but partially because the enemy team is just there. So I'm going for Soul Eater. Again, Soul Eater because I just watch anything die and I get 5 stacks for gods. I'm not too concerned about how long it's going to take me to, actually stack this. Ymir starts in the Gold Fury. I'm all there. That's fine. Chernobog is in right lane Ares mid. I doubt anyone's actively looking at Gold Fury, and we all consolidate on it in neutral order anyways. So it's not really that big of a deal. A bit of a risk, absolutely, because we didn't know where Bakasor was, or Vulcan. Right, so there is some risk there, but we knew where the other two were. There's Scylla, there's the whole enemy team. I'm calling a gank because I think we have this in the bag. It's a 3-on-3 with us having a level advantage and a gold advantage. I get Vulcan killed, Hera takes out Bakasor, Harry's for the clutch kill on Ares. That's absolutely fantastic. Right, we have a nice Argus, so I'm going to commit at this point because we have Argus. I failed to kick Scylla into Chernobog. Argus tries to take her out. I slow her down. It's not enough. I'm just looking to take her out because she's the last man standing at this point. So it's very important for us to take her out. There she finally goes. And now we get to take the mid tower. We get to take the... I was going to say take the left Phoenix, but Artemis has already taken it out. And then we're just going to push down mid Phoenix, and we will wind up triumphing at that particular point in time. Right? So Argus absorbs a couple of shots. We take out the Phoenix. I'm fine with absorbing this. Totally fine. Now you'll notice I've actually already almost got my Soul Eater half stacked at this particular point in time. Right? Which is absolutely fantastic. We do wind up going back and regrouping. Actually, I think the enemy team surrenders pretty soon. If I'm remembering correctly. But I get my Bluestone, my Corrupted Bluestone. I already have half my stacks pretty much for Soul Eater, despite having just built it, which is a testament to how quickly you can get these stacks if you're just present for death, which sounds weird, but, then I'm going to grab all of my items, grab my Sentry Ward, I'm going to, teleport over, and I'm going to be trying to push down mid lane. Now, I take a quick detour to ward the Fire Giant. Specifically, I think about starting the Scorpion, but I decide that's not probably a good idea. I check around for some enemies really quick. I don't see any. I'm looking to clear out this giant wave here because I don't want my tower being lost just in case this next attack goes south. After all, we've only killed Bakasor, so they could theoretically still win the fight. Right? So I'm concerned about that. I'm just farming the jungle. Artemis had gone back to buy some items. I'm just looking for gold for, upgrading my horrific curse. I know Vulcan's in right lane, so I kind of want to gank him, but I don't know if my team is with me on that. They want to take the Fire Giant, so I'm like, alright. Now, this is unfortunate, this right here. This is Chernobog ulting. He's not trying to get to anyone specifically. He just wants to know what we're doing, and now he knows. He knows we're at the Fire Giant, alright? He knows we're here. Scylla's looking to interrupt. And because there's actually an interesting mistake he makes here, right? He's up here very clearly. Now, this isn't by itself an error, all right? Because obviously that left lane needs to be covered because fire minions are barreling down it. But then the enemy team, without Chernobog, without one of their main damage sources, is now in the jungle looking to try to steal the fire giant, which is possible but could be difficult. And we initiate on them while Artemis and Ymir basically take the fire giant. And Artemis is great at this, so I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm just trying to, help Hera out here. Uh, Unfortunately, Ymir dies after the fact, but with Hera, we take out Ares, we took out Scylla, so we're ahead. It's just Vulcan over there and right versus Artemis and Hades. I'm moving for the cutoff. Right, here's Hera getting slapped by Bakasur. I help her out. Basically, I do just enough damage so she can finish him off, which is great. Vulcan had to retreat. We're taking right Phoenix. We've got Argus. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm just looking... Now, what I'm doing here is I'm very deliberately creating an opportunity for my team to take that Phoenix. I'm forcing the enemy away, or scaring them away, really. Actually would be the better description. I'm not forcing them, I'm scaring them, and they just retreat. And now we're looking to take the Titan. Again, I'm pulling the same stunt. I'm trying to scare the enemy away. They're going back under tower. I can't chase them. I'm sorry, under fountain. I can't chase them under there. So we just go on ahead and take out the Titan at this point, right? So, again, just to kind of summarize going against Gilgamesh really quick, because that was part of the point of this episode, Gilgamesh really requires a lot of precision. If he misses his kick or misses too many abilities in a row, he's in a very, very bad position. Even if he's building auto attack, he's not in a great position. So as long as you can dodge his abilities, you're pretty good. You're in a great spot here. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now you can see where the Vulcan was double stacking, which is fairly risky, alright? Stacking as a mage in solo lane can be very risky. The Hourglass is absolutely the correct move here, and especially good on Vulcan. Now, some people might say, oh, Vulcan's not great in the solo lane. Incorrect. Actually, Vulcan has a lot of potential in the solo lane, but he is very matchup dependent. The interesting thing about Vulcan is he is one of the very few gods in the game that has the ability to naturally increase his MP5. Every time he lands an ability, he gets MP5 for, I think, 5 seconds. I think it's 20 MP5, I could be wrong. But he actually gets a boost in his MP5, which means he is much less reliant on the blue buff than most other mages are in the game, which gives him a very unique potential to sustain for extended periods of time in the solo lane. Generally speaking, when I play Vulcan in the solo lane, I prefer running immediate lifesteal and then trying to figure out where I'm going to go from there, usually Bancrofts. But double stacking with a mage in solo lane is very risky, and he basically doubled down on this as an error because once he started falling behind while working towards Book of Thoth, he then went for Warlock Staff, which, even though he was behind, meant he was still stacking. So really, his build itself isn't terrible. It's just that in the context of not only being in solo lane, but being behind, makes this a really questionable first half of the build, basically. Alright? And you can see where even as late as I built Soul Eater, I still had it fully stacked at the end. Soul Eater takes surprisingly a lot less time to stack than a lot of other items, even with 100 stacks required, but you do have to be very careful about when and where you build it. But that's generally what you want to... Some of the things you want to keep in mind when playing as Gilgamesh and also when playing against Gilgamesh. He is very precise. Dodge his abilities, which it sounds like that's common sense, right? Oh, dodge his abilities, don't get hit and whatever. Consider Erlang Shen. He doesn't really much care if you dodge his abilities. Most of his damage is in his auto attacks, right? Ares, if you take him in the solo lane, he's pretty tanky, and he has the ability to increase his protections and HP 5 with his aura there. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but he has that aura that increases the protections and HP 5 and crowd control reduction of nearby allies. He can, if he whiffs his stuff, he can just sustain that HP back, or just last a little longer against you using that. Bolster defenses, that's what it's called. A lot of gods have some kind of alternate scheme to really inflict damage, and to some extent so does Gilgamesh, but his wave clear is in his abilities, and his primary way of locking you down is in his abilities. His abilities really aggressively support his auto attacks, either giving himself lifesteal via the jump area that he produces when he lands the jump, or alternatively, the stun with the kick. So these are the kinds of things that if he whiffs them, he's going to have a bit of a problem with the next fight, right? Especially since his cooldowns are a little bit longer than average. He's got some decently long cooldowns there. So this is really how you want to approach Gilgamesh. Whereas with Guan Yu, the key is to interrupt Taolu Assault where you have the advantage, whether that be boxing or wave clear. For Gilgamesh, it's trying to throw his wave clear off by either pulling minion aggro earlier than he does and tricking the minion waves away from each other, basically trying to get them out of a straight line. Or alternatively, you just focus really hard on dodging Gilgamesh's abilities and then turning around and counterattacking. In fact, basically, the best way to approach Gilgamesh, as you saw with the Vulcan earlier, is if Gilgamesh initiates on you, don't spend your abilities unless they're going to move you away from him. Spend your time dodging his abilities, and once you've dodged the brunt of his abilities, it's pretty tough to dodge the jump. But the kick and the initial fire blast of Sunforged Scimitar, if you can dodge those two, then you unload all your abilities in a huge blast in an effort to either poke him out or force him back or otherwise kill him when he initiates on you. That is your goal there. Alright? That's how you box against Gilgamesh. You basically don't even think about touching him until he's blown his abilities and you've dodged them. And now, hey, now I've got this great opportunity for the next 10 seconds to absolutely put the beat down on you, right? That's how you interact with Gilgamesh. So with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me. And have a great 24 hours.